It's blast day here at Covert's, and you know what we're blasting? This beautiful 1976 Oldsmobile Cutlass. Stick around. I'm Jason Covert. I own Covert's, and if you don't know us, well, we fix old cars, and you know, part of fixing old cars is getting rid of old paint, rust, and nasty stuff. And we got Chaz's 1976 Oldsmobile Cutlass here, which has all of those things: rust, paint, other stuff, unmentionables, and it's been tore apart since 1995, I think he told me, and I think it's time to get it finished up. So he brought it here. Now, our first step, we put it on a rotisserie, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to blast this thing top, side, upright, underneath, everywhere. Get her in epoxy so it stops rusting. But before we do all that, let's take a look at the car. I'll show you some equipment that we use to blast, and I'll show you how we blast. So why would you want to sandblast a car or media blast a car? Well, it is probably the quickest way to get down to this. This is bare metal, and it leaves a light profile, and you know, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. You could dip it, you know, you can mechanically strip it with like a sander, or chemically strip it with paint remover, and all those just suck, except for the dipping. That's pretty cool. But this is probably the most cost-effective solution, is to just blast them, because it takes off everything. But kind of the only thing you don't get off is, if you look right down here, is some of this old seam sealer. That stuff blasts hard, and if you work on it hard enough, it'll come loose. So let's go over the equipment here. But first, why do we call it sandblasting versus like media blasting? Well, they used to use sand, so everybody kind of just calls it sandblasting, and that has definitely fallen out of favor for like this. So the silica sand that they used for years was really, really unhealthy for everybody. Not good to be around. And so now this is what we use. This is recycled coal slag. This is the extra fine, and it works really well. General use. It will warp sheet metal if you're not careful. So that all comes into how far away you are from the panel, and angle of attack and whatnot, how long you stay there. So this works really wonderful. There's a bunch of other stuff you can use: walnut shells, soda, you name it, it's probably out there, but this is what we use. And let's go look at this compressor thing. Sandblasting requires air. Like, you can't push sand and stuff, or media, whatever you want to call it, out the machine without air. And this is a little bit bigger than your standard home user. This is an Ingersoll 185, a very well used one, but it runs really good, and we could afford it. So this moves 185 CFM air, and according to the little tag inside, it is 80 horsepower, powered by a John Deere diesel engine. We'll go take a look at that quick. Open this side panel, and there it is. And if you notice, there's no air tank. So this is not a piston-driven machine. This is actually the air end of the unit, and that's your oil separator, and that's what makes the air. This thing makes so much air so quick, you don't even need a reserve tank when you're blasting. It'll keep up just fine. So to put that in perspective, your normal home compressor might put out 18 CFMs to 35 CFMs, and it could be anywhere from 5 horse to 7.5 to 10 horse. So this is a lot of compressor. Great units. You've probably seen these alongside the road construction sites everywhere. They run forever. Solid units. So now we need to cool our air coming out of this. So this air coming out of this, I don't have a temperature, but it's hot. I can tell you that because it'll burn your hands if it's on like something metal or a hose. So that's what this guy does. This is an aftercooler. It's got a fan. It's a 12-volt fan. We just hook it onto the battery with alligator clips, and the air comes out over there. It makes its way through this, and then after it gets through the aftercooler, it comes to a water separator. So what that does is that separates the air and the water, and then it goes on out to our sandblaster through this hose here. It's like a 3/4 inch hose, and then that's where all the magic happens. Magic starts here. Magic continues over there. And this guy here is the actual sandblast machine, or the media blast. Not to confuse you guys. I'll try to stick to one or the other. And this is what actually does the work. So this is a older Empire unit that we blasted and painted and kind of rebuilt, and it's about as simple as you think. You put your media in top, and there is a plunger in here that when it sees air, it pushes up and completely closes that in and prevents air coming out. So this is at that point a pressure vessel. It contains air, and this is where the air comes into. I didn't show that. If you come down here, this is the other part that's really important. Is this is your, I guess, media control valve that controls the flow of, you know, your sandblast media coming out into your hose. And that goes, if you follow me, cameraman Ed, wherever the end of the hose is, down to here. So all your media comes out of this guy. This is a 1/4 inch tip, or a number 4. You can see in there. And it basically, it necks that down to give it some velocity. So it pushes out of this really hard. You kind of run more air than you actually do media. So you want to kind of run it lean. It works better. And you control that blast pot on and off with this guy. So this is what they refer to as a dead man valve, or dead man switch. And this is an electric one. There's pneumatic ones as well. That's most common. But this one's electric. So when you got a blast, you just kind of hold it down, do your blasting. And when you stop, you let up, it shuts the air off coming in and evacuates the air in the pot. It's pretty simple, not that technical, but it works really well. So we have all that. There's one more piece of equipment that's super important, and that's some PPE stuff. So obviously that stuff's coming back at you pretty aggressively, and it hurts when it hits. And if I stop tripping over the microphone cord here, I'll show you this. This is the hood. Now, this is just a cheap hood. We're not a big blasting company, so this works really well for us. We mainly just blast our stuff that comes in the shop for rework. And this is a fresh air system. So this is connected to a little machine over there. It's got filters on it, and it sucks fresh air in and sends it down to the helmet and gives you a nice supply of like cold fresh air. And they had tear-offs for this so you could see, and it makes for not a bad experience. It's really sometimes kind of enjoyable just to put your earbuds in and just forget the world for a little bit. So it's enough yapping. I'll show you how we blast. not quite done yet, but we kind of took a pause from blasting just to kind of explain why I didn't take this all the way down. So this is body filler, and this is a big flat panel, and the risk of warping that, trying to get that filler off, it's just not worth it. So I got a lot of it off, and we'll come back and we'll hit it with like a 80 grit on the DA and finish taking it off. And there's a couple other spots and stuff like on the firewall, all the old seam sealer and whatnot, the gooky gunky stuff, it just blasts off hard. So it kind of makes more sense to leave that, and then we'll wire wheel a lot of that off. But so far so good. It's blasting all right. We're going to keep blasting. I think Ed's going to hit it for the night, and I'll show you this when we get her all done. There's one job done. I'm sure many more, and there's probably spots we missed, but that's all right. We go through, we sand all this stuff with 80 grit anyways. We'll get after stuff like a wire wheel, like that body filler that didn't quite come out. I think it was pretty good. The car was previously blasted, so we didn't have to blast real hard on it. Just clean the years of rust and nasty stuff out of it. So that's it. Even the old machine here said we're done.